From the heart of Manhattan, this is Classic Talk.
Thank you for joining us today on Classic Talk with Bing and Dennis. Today we have the great pleasure of welcoming Sandra Radvanovsky, one of the most prominent Verdian sopranos of our time, to the studio. Welcome, Sandra.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for spending some time with us.
Of course.
Now, you are singing in Met right now, right?
Yes.
And what are you singing right now?
I'm singing Amelia in Un ballo in maschera, new production.
Wow. What a dramatic one.
Yeah, and it's a new one still for me. This is only the second time I've done the role.
I believe there's even an HD broadcast to theaters around the world this Saturday. Is that correct? Yeah. So the performance is different when those television cameras are on.
Absolutely, in many ways.
You're more aware of your facial expressions, or think?
Well, first and foremost, there's the whole thing, the concept of cameras being in your face, and they're very noticeable for us on stage. There's one right at the lip of the stage that runs back and forth on a track.
The rabbit.
It's the rabbit, yes, and that's exactly what it feels like. I just want to get the gun and shoot the rabbit. And then the big boom ones that you see sometimes just the shadow kind of looming in. So there's that aspect of it, and you're always very self-conscious of, okay, well, what kind of face am I making? Because as singers, we don't always make the most natural faces, and so I'm consciously thinking about, okay, wait, don't drop your jaw, don't open your mouth so much, don't. But when we sing, we really have no control over, I think, some of that aspect. And then there's also the whole thing of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people seeing you live worldwide. And God forbid if you miss a note, flub a note, or if you have a costume issue, which in this production I have a moment in the third act that could be a little tricky with Dmitri Vorostovsky. And he gets a lot of energy when he's on stage, and sometimes you just don't know what's going to happen with him, and it's live.
You've sung a lot with Dmitri.
A lot.
Even you've done his program, or not program, but his series in Russia.
Yeah, Dmitri and Friends.
Dmitri and
Yeah,
Friends.
in Moscow.
And a CD came out of that, or a DVD?
Both. That was the very first time I sang with Dmitri. Very first time. I kind of, hi, how are you? Let's go sing and let's make a DVD of it. Exciting.
Were you singing in the different cities or just of one? Or?
Just in Moscow.
Oh,
just in Moscow. And we made a live CD and a live DVD, and hopefully we'll have more to come, and maybe they'll make a DVD of this ballo. I don't know what their plans are, but fingers crossed.
Did you go to his hometown?
No, we didn't. He's a little bit outside of Moscow. He's way in Siberia. Yeah, way other side.
And we went to the museum there.
Did you?
Guess what?
What?
His pictures in the museum.
Homage.
Center position.
Oh, no. Homage to Dmitri. Well, I guess a town like that, that would be a pretty big deal having someone like him come from it.
Speaking of recordings, you have a recording that won several awards, correct? With Fidelos?
Yeah, we did pretty well. It's my first and only solo CD that I have out of Verdi arias. And it was, I think we released it now about two and a half years ago. And we're already in talks to do another CD.
Oh, great.
And hopefully, and it's just finding the time to do it. It takes time not only to learn the music, but the time to go into a studio and get an orchestra together and, plan it all.
Did you do it here in New York?
No, we did it in Moscow.
Oh, that was part of Dmitri.
Well, no, same conductor. Konstantin Orbelian is his name. He's a partial owner of the Delos record label. And it's a wonderful conductor, and he has his own orchestra in Moscow. So, as you know, making a recording is very cost prohibitive these days. And so we got the studio, we got the orchestra at a much, much reduced rate. So it was exciting.
What do you usually like to do? Concert, recording, or opera?
I like them all. I like recital because you have that immediacy with the audience. It's usually kind of like the greatest hits. At least the recitals that I do opera arias as well as art song on it, because I think that's what the public wants these days. They don't want a full art song recital necessarily. So that's fun, and to get that kind of energy from the audience and to give them an abridged version of what I do, This is kind of all my greatest hits. But opera, being on stage and getting to act and having the live theater there, 4,000 people at the Met, hopefully applauding you, is exciting. Sure. And recordings are really tricky, especially with larger voices. They don't always record so well, so you really have to have great sound engineers, a great hall where you record it that can deal with a larger voice and not get a lot of reverb. It's really tricky.
Let's go back a few years. I have a question for you, and it's, do you make the claim to be an American or a Canadian?
That's a good question. Well, I would say in Canada I'm Canadian, and in the States I'm American.
Diplomatic of you.
And over in Europe, well, I'm American Canadian. I feel both. I really do.
Where were you born?
I was born in Berwyn, a suburb of Chicago, Illinois. My mom still lives there. My brother still lives there outside of Chicago, but I married a lovely Canadian and have lived there for 11 years, and I really call it home.
Is he in the same field?
No, he's my business manager, actually. He was musically trained. He went to the choir college there in downtown Toronto called St. Michael's Choir College. And his classmate was Michael Shada, the tenor. And Michael was the one who actually introduced us 12 years ago. So thank you, Michael. And so my husband actually has a very good singing voice. He just didn't have the personality to get up and do it. And so he went to college for business and has a business degree. So he plays the piano, he understands singing, and he understands finances. I mean,
that's great.
He dropped out of the heavens and landed on my lap.
Combination.
I know. So he travels with me, and I don't know if all of you know, but musicians are not necessarily the best with money and finances. So he does all of that. And then he interfaces with my publicist and my 5 managers around the world. So I sing.
You sing.
That's all I do. I sing.
So do you talk business every night you go home and things like that?
Yeah. There's nothing romantic about that part of it. I got to say, you come home, okay, honey, what interviews do I have to do? Who wrote webmail, fan mail, all the nitty-gritty that people just don't understand about this career. It's not glamorous in the least bit. And he cooks for me, so.
At least. Oh.
Yes.
That's a good part.
Because also I can't cook. My big secret.
So he's a good cook.
He's an excellent cook because he was in college. He was a short order chef, so he can whip up something out of nothing. And as I said, he really is good with Mexican food.
Is that right?
He loves Mexican food; it's his favorite. And Indian, he's been playing around with Indian food lately. So yeah, you never know quite what we're going to get for dinner, and it's always exciting.
How do you like to work with your husband, day in, day out? I mean, it could be very good, but sometimes it may be a little bit too much.
We've been married now almost 11 years. It'll be 11 years, can you believe? 11 years, December 21st. And in those 11 years, we have had one fight.
Really?
One fight. And it wasn't a knockdown, blow 'em out kind of fight. It was just like, I don't like you right now, I'm leaving.
Clearance.
Exactly. But we're together 24 hours a day, 365 days out of the year. And I say to people, I'm really grateful I married my best friend, as well as, my husband. But he's my best friend, and he is
great.
Truly, truly a godsend. I know, and it sounds all mushy and romantic, but, we find a way to really separate the business from the personal life. And it's great because I have someone just to go home and go, blah, and get it all off my chest, and then it's gone. So
I think one thing good about it is that because you two both always together, so you probably won't miss your home, so-called, quote-unquote.
It
your
sounds
home's
good.
Going with you everywhere.
It sounds good in theory, but yeah, it's no, I miss it. And I have to say, the longer and longer I'm in this career, the more and more I miss home. And it's tough. That's the toughest part about it. That birthdays, holidays, weddings, funerals, you miss them all.
Right.
And it's difficult. It really is. And you have to have friends that understand This is what I do. Unfortunately, I'm on the road. If you want to see me, you have to come to Munich, Germany, or, you have to come to New York City or wherever we're singing. And the group of friends we have are the best. They're really the best. They understand what it's like, the traveling, and they're great. And they make time when we're home. We cram everything into, 2 days here, 3 days here, because on average, we're gone 10 and a half months to 11 months out of the year.
Do you have a time, say, in the summer where you just say, I will not accept anything, I'm going to take a break? Or?
I said that to my manager last year. Unfortunately, this being 2012, we are booked into the 2017-18 season with a few contracts now in 2019. So I say this to him last year, and, it'll take effect in the summer of 2017. But yes, I think it's singing the big, heavy repertoire that I sing, not just vocally, but also emotionally heavy. Right. You just sometimes need to sit at home and stare at your four walls and wear your pajamas all day and decompress. And I think I had mentioned, Dennis and I had talked about this, I think it all caught up to me in April. I got a terrible virus in my throat. Actually in my vocal cords, and the doctor in Madrid where I was had never seen this before. He said, how can you get a virus in your vocal cords? But my doctor in Toronto said, I really think, Sandra, you were just run down. You're just so exhausted from going that you didn't take time for yourself and you got sick.
Speaking of your vocal cords, you did have a crisis 10 years ago or so?
Yeah, 10 years ago, yeah.
Tell us what happened.
Well, I very early on knew that I had some ailment on one of my vocal cords, because you could hear when I was singing there was a little bit of air kind of going through the cords. And for you, all of you out there that don't understand air, vocal cords are very, very tiny bands of muscles that phonate like this. And if there's anything on the side of the vocal cord, air will seep through it. And you can hear it in a voice. You can hear some singers, raspy singers, more pop singers, you can hear it, the ones that have that in their sound that like it. But in an opera singer, that's not a good thing. So I knew very early on I had pneumonia as a child. And the doctor seems to think that when they put the tube down my throat when I had pneumonia, he nicked one of my vocal cords just slightly. Well, as the years went on, that little nick got larger and larger and formed what we would call a callus on one of the vocal cords, because when we talk, they phonate very rapidly. So it was always hitting the other one and getting bigger, more irritated. And it finally got to the point when I was singing more and more that I would need at least 2 days in between performances for my voice to heal. And those 2 days I had no life. I couldn't talk, I couldn't see friends, and I said, I can't do this anymore. So I went to a lovely doctor in Boston, Dr. Steven Zeitels, who is a godsend, who's the one who just actually did surgery on Adele and Mick Jagger. I mean, all the pop singers have been to him, and a lot of opera singers have been to him. And he, in 1 hour, boom, off it came, changed my life.
Wow. Changed
my whole technique, because I learned how to sing with this impediment, but then I had to learn how to sing without it.
How long was the recovery after you had the...
I went back and sang an opera probably about 2 months later, like opening night of an opera. 2 weeks vocal rest, which was very difficult for me to keep my mouth shut for 2 weeks. And, not one peep could you make, nothing. No exercise, nothing that put strain on your throat. But 2 months later, I was back singing my debut of Vêpres Sicilienne in Paris. It's truly a miracle. And it's a real stigma with opera singers, especially opera singers, to talk about having a vocal impediment and going and having surgery, because football players, baseball players, you read it in the news every day, they tore a rotator cuff. Well, he went and had surgery and he's fine. Well, ours isn't a rotator cuff. It's these two little cords that vibrate in our throat. And we abuse them so much. It's very common, but there's still stigma. Oh, she has bad technique. Oh, she's singing wrong. Oh, it's the end of her career. And I just came out and said, this is what happened, and I've been great since then. So
psychologically, during that period of time, wow. How do you feel that you say, "Oh my gosh, this is the end of my world," and things like that?
You know, the doctor, he's very cavalier, Dr. Zeitels, and I thank him for that. Extremely positive. 99.9% recovery, he said, chance of recovery. Great. But what if I'm that 0.1%?
That's right.
You know, what if your hand shakes when you have that laser in your hand? You know, there's so many what ifs that go through your mind. And I had to, I can't say I'm a religious person, but I had to just say, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Because if you fret about it and you worry about it. But there were many sleepless nights, many crying nights, many nights you just think, oh, what will I do if I don't sing? And then I thought, whoa, Sandra, you were given this gift for some reason. I don't think you're done with what you're supposed to do in this world. And I strongly believe that. It was like a little voice in the back of my head that said, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. And I was. Not without a lot of work. I mean, I had months I had to learn how to re-sing. And not just after I did Vepres Sicilienne. It was years that I was still relearning how to sing.
The voice felt different after the...
Oh, absolutely. Everything. Because if you have an impediment on one of the chords, you have to push more air to make them phonate. Instead of a normal person's chords, we're just talking now, I would have to give it air like that, pressure. And so I had to learn how to sing giving less pressure, and muscle memory is a terrible thing to retrain, as any ballet dancer or gymnast or anyone will teach you. It's difficult.
Not only for this kind of instance, but normally, you know, because it's so intricate.
Yes.
And every day, any cold or anything, does that really kind of make you insecure in a certain way?
That's a good question. With the HD coming up on Saturday. I used to be. I will say, I used to be. And then fear takes over. And I didn't want to live in fear. And I really have to say this virus that I got last April changed my life because I couldn't sing for 3 months. I was incapacitated terribly. We also then didn't know if I was going to sing again or not because the virus caused my vocal cords to swell up so terribly. They looked like 2 little golf balls in my throat. I couldn't swallow pills. I couldn't swallow anything. And because they were swollen so quickly, rapidly, one of the cords actually had a slight tear on it. And, you know, it put my life into perspective. And it truly was like another chance in a way. And I just said, if I don't do this, I'll do something else. And it was like all that fear was lifted off of me. And I remembered why I did this in the first place, is because I love to sing. And it's sometimes you need that perspective to just say, wait, what am I doing here? I love what I do. I got into this because I love to sing and I love singing opera. So it lifted all that fear away, really. And yeah, I'm not going to go to a rock concert that night before I do the High Def broadcast. I don't smoke, you know, I drink in moderation, all of those things that all singers do. But that paralyzing fear, gone. Really gone.
Well, I guess that's...
I'm lucky.
Yes.
Lucky.
Yes.
Let's go back many years. And did you love to sing as a child?
I did. I was, 5 or 6 years old, and my mother bought me a record player for my birthday and a Karen Carpenter.
You're dating yourself.
Record. I know, yeah. Well, I'm only 32, you know. And... yeah, Karen Carpenter singing. And
I loved her too.
Oh, God. What a voice. Oh, how tragic. And so I started singing along with it. And then I started harmonizing with it. And my mom said, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, harmonizing with a singer, that's unusual. So church choir, standard, you know, way that people get into classical music. And... my choir director in church said, this girl has a God-given talent. You really need to nurture it. And I started taking lessons when I was 11 years old. Mm-hmm. And you hear so many stories about singers that started young and really didn't make it because they were burnt out. And I always had the passion. I mean, I went to college for singing. I, studied voice from when I was 11 years old until now. I'm 43, and it's always been what I wanted to do. And I'm very lucky that I found my passion at 11 years old.
Do you think that you were just talking about maybe the parents or themselves pushing themselves too hard?
Oh, oftentimes. Yeah. You see that a lot, especially in the pop world, or the acting world. You see parents that are just pushy with the children. And if I didn't want to practice, my mom said, fine, go be a kid. She never... Only thing she pushed me was to take piano lessons, and that didn't end well. It didn't end well.
Is there anybody else in your family's musical?
My brother was very good at piano. He actually did go to piano lessons, and he was very good. And he also has a wonderful speaking voice for voiceovers. He kind of played around with that for a little while, but he's very technical. No one else in my family, no. My mom, she sings in the car, and I say, Mom, please stand by the window. Let me help you out. She has a range of 4 notes. As I say to her, 4 good notes, but 4 notes.
How did you decide where to go to college?
It was a very easy decision for me because I was living in Southern California at that time. My father was transferred out there from Chicago. And when I was in high school, I was transferred out in my junior year of high school, so junior and senior year. And my mother and I looked for a good voice teacher out there because I had to leave my one back in Indiana. And we found a really great professor at USC, University of Southern California, and I started taking lessons with him my junior year and senior year of high school. So it was just an assumption I was going to USC, and I did. And then I went to UCLA, and I was a theater major at UCLA.
Oh.
So I learned about acting. I learned about all these lovely lights and cameras that are in here, and how to position yourself and how to move on stage, and it was invaluable. I never knew how valuable all that time was. Learning about how to put on your own makeup and about costume periods and all of that. It was brilliant.
Did you start auditioning for either like the Met National Council at this point, or was it still too early?
I left college. I actually don't have a degree. I decided after my third or fourth year, it's really not for me. I didn't like that, the schedule, and you have to do this and you have to do that. And I really felt like I was learning more in my private lessons with my teacher at that point. So I became a mortgage broker. As one does, mortgage broker to earn money, and then studied privately, and I became a mortgage broker so that I could leave in the middle of the day and go take a voice lesson.
Right.
And so the first competition I didn't want to do it until I felt I could win, and that was the Met National Council auditions, which I won 2 days after I turned 25.
Is that right? I think we're going to have to take a break. We have much more to talk about. It's just the beginning of your career at this point.
I know.
But we must take a break. We are here with Sandra Radvanovsky speaking today. This is Classic Talk with Bing and Dennis. We'll be right back.